It was not the experience I was expecting. It was so much better. Welcome to Beyond the Pavement. Today I'm going to talk about getting back in the saddle, both figuratively and literally. So if you've seen any of my videos or know my story a little bit, you know that I was injured in a horseback accident. So I used to do gymnastics on the back of a horse, and I was injured doing a dismount, and I broke my back and severed my spinal cord, and I'm now paralyzed from the waist down. So getting back into the saddle meant a lot to me. So my first time getting on the saddle or back on a horse, I think was only like maybe a week after, maybe 2 weeks after I was released from the hospital, and I was still in a brace, and I got on a friend's horse, and I had people on either side of me, and somebody was like ponying the horse along. And I just remember being like so upset because just like a month prior, I was able to do handstands and aerials off of a horse. So sitting there with these people on either side of me safeguarding and ponying the horse along, I just felt like I was 3 years old, and it wasn't the same. And so I kind of wrote it off, and I decided I wasn't going to get on horses again. But fast forward, I think it was like 8 years, maybe 10, I was giving lessons from the ground, and my horse was also getting lessons by an instructor to kind of keep my horse's health at her physical peak for lessons. And he came and he was like, hey, how about you ride your horse in today's lesson? And in my gut, I just knew it wasn't the same anymore, and I just didn't want to be reminded of my old life versus the new one and how I couldn't do anything anymore. And like if I fell off, I would be humiliated, and I had all these like negative thoughts just swirling inside my head. And for whatever reason, I said yes. So he picked me out of my chair, put me on my horse, and I did a lesson. And I was very like hesitant at first. I kind of just like walked my horse Opal around, did like a figure 8, and then he was like, okay, let's pick it up to a trot. And I had not done a trot since before my accident. So that's like the horse does this little jog. So I cued my horse using my voice, and I had these two little, they're essentially like little tiny whips. They're just called crops. And I had one in either hand and kind of used that as if that was my leg on her. And she started to pick up a trot. And I was nervous about this, but we kept going. He's like, okay, do a figure 8 and circle around. And I went and I did a figure 8, and I still stayed on. I hadn't fallen off at this point. Things were going really well. I felt like I was one with my horse. It was not the experience I was expecting. It was so much better. So I got off my horse, finished the lesson, and put my horse back. And I was just like filled with excitement because this piece of me I felt like had come back that I didn't think was going to be able to do that. And so I got back in my car, and I called up some of my old buddies that I used to do gymnastics on horseback with, and I said, hey, you guys will never guess what happened. I rode Opal today. We rode at walk and trot, and I did it all by myself, and I did this figure 8. And then I had this feeling in my pit that what if that was just a fluke thing? Like, what if it had only happened one time, and every time after I was going to fall off, and it was just like this magical moment. So I knew I was going to be worried about it until I got on again, and I didn't want that to be like another week. So I asked my mom if she'd drive us both back to the barn. So we went back to the barn. She grabbed my horse from the stall, put her in the cross ties to get ready to get tacked up. And then one of her friends was there, so she started chatting, as moms typically do. And I went into the tack room to get her tack. When I went in there, I was looking all around for where her saddle was, and of course I find it up on the tallest shelf. So I look around the tack room like, okay, how am I gonna get this down? I wanna do this now. I can't stand up, how am I gonna do this? So I found a pitchfork, and I grabbed the pitchfork, I flipped it the other way around so the little handle end was on the top, and I pushed it underneath the tree of the saddle and shimmied it off the shelf till I grabbed it. And then I realized I had another obstacle, and that was if I put it on my lap, it would be in the way of my wheels and I would just be stuck there. So The only place I could put it that made sense to me was on my head. So I had this saddle on my head, I'm holding it with one hand, and I'm pushing myself over to my horse, who is patiently staring at me, waiting for me to tack her up, probably thinking I'm crazy. So I get her all tacked up, I get her bridle on, she's ready to go. My mom comes back to see the progress, and she's like, "Hey, you ready to ride?" "Yeah, let's bring her out to the arena." So we brought her to the arena, and at this point, nobody was there. It was just my mom, myself, and my horse. And there was nobody to lift me up onto the horse. My mom didn't feel like she was strong enough to do that. So she offered a different solution. She said, "Why don't we come back another day when your brother can lift you on, or when your instructor comes back and he can lift you on. We can just do another time. No big deal." But again, I didn't want to wait. I wanted to prove to myself that it was real, that I could do it again, I could replicate this, and I could be back on a horse and be independent and successful. So I looked around the arena. There's no mounting blocks that have like a ramp for me to get on. There was no like seating area that maybe I could transfer onto the horse from the seating area. There was nothing but dirt and fence. So I went up to a fence and I grabbed the rungs and I pulled myself up. And as I'm going, I'm like sweating bullets because it's like only my upper body is doing the work and my lower body is just like flailing like a rag doll. So it's so hard. In the back of my mind, I start to have these doubtful thoughts and I push them aside as I keep climbing up. And I bet it took me probably like a solid 10 to 15 minutes just to get to the top of that fence. But as I got up there, my mom brought Opal around and I climbed onto her back, got up into the saddle. She handed me my little crops and off we went. And we did a circle and then a figure 8 at trot, and it was real. And I felt so fulfilled in that moment. And not only did I like do something that I didn't think I was going to be able to do again after my injury and like prove to myself that I could do it, but that memory, that experience is one that I turn back to a lot when I'm going through something difficult. It just reminds me like, yeah, there may be a lot of obstacles and you may not be very good at it at the beginning and you may think like you're never going to be good at it. But if you just keep trying and you find solutions to these obstacles, you can do it. It's just, to me, it's my lesson of never giving up, because life is all about obstacles and difficult times. And as long as you don't give up on yourself, you can achieve anything. So this is Opal, and that story is about her and I, and that magical experience we had together. If you have an experience that resonates with this story or you want to share that's uplifting and about not giving up, I would love to hear it. Just put it in the comments below, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.